Hi, I'm going to talk about the 36. I really like the 36. I have the 36. I'm going to read a little bit of what Richard Red says in the circuitry book, which, again, you've probably heard me say is one of my most favorite reference books. This is The Gate of Crisis, the darkening of the light. People who are here to go through profound emotional experiences. This is the gate of emotional turbulence. These people are here to learn to handle emotional experiences and to find clarity, emotional, by going through all kinds of emotional challenges. Both highs and lows are here to move through cycles during which their inexperience is transformed into experience. They learn through constant change, which can prove both very exciting or deeply overwhelming and destabilizing. These are people with untapped depth of feeling that are always waiting for someone to trigger them. I have the 36 in my design Mars in a defined emotional center. You know, I read at one point when I was, I don't know, a long time ago, not that long ago, actually, I read a few years, that if you have the 36, you will bring crisis to people. And I'm like, I do not. And then of course, I looked back. I'm a 2946, so I look back, and I'm also my 33 design sun, and I went, oh fuck, I do bring crisis. And so then I got embarrassed. My little open ego, completely open ego here. I was like, I don't want to bring crisis. I don't want people to think that about me. Looks like I have something on my nose. Oh no, now I pointed it out to you. I'm gonna take my glasses off. Then at least I won't see it. Oh my God. Okay. And then I found out, I kept listening to different things. I think this was in relationship course material, where it also said that 36 will only bring a crisis that you can handle, that someone else can handle. So I felt better about that. And then my little open ego was like, well, if you can't handle me, you're just not strong enough, which, is an equally ridiculous thought, right? But if I'm correct, I will show up in someone's life to bring the correct crisis that will move them along their trajectory, that will help them become clearer or more themselves in some way. So be careful if you invite me over. Also, if you invite me over, I'm a right angle cross of the four ways, which means people call me into their life when they're ready to end a process. My incarnation cross is the last four gates of each of the four quarters. And so it's like, wrap it up so you can open up to something new. So the 36. The 36 is also a fear of inadequacy, a fear of sexual inadequacy. There are mirror gates, and the 48 is the mirror gate to the 36. And that's fear of inadequacy on a different level. This is sexual inadequacy. And often, quite honestly, people who have an open 36, not defined, in an open solar plexus, have this huge fear of sexual inadequacy. And it's also nervousness about expectations, again, sexual, emotional expectations. It's also emotional inadequacy, but it's irrelevant, because if your not self is activated, it goes to the open gates that are in your open centers, and you will keynote yourself down the line. That my unfuck yourself process is a whole process of looking at exactly that, and the phrases and words and sentences that your mind says based on this openness that isn't you at all. I'm going in all directions today with this little 36 business. So Am I bringing you to a crisis? Okay, if you have your sun in the 36, it's going to be a big part of who you are. And I would say it's probably really important to get correct with yourself, or you'll bring the wrong crisis to people and they won't like it. Whereas shaking things up can really excite some people. I mean, I like shaking things up. I like it when things get kind of turbulent, not when it's because I've made a mistake. I'm a 3-5, because then I still have a hard time not getting mad at myself about that, which is so ridiculous because I will be making more mistakes. But yeah, if it's in your design or your personality, and you go to a certain place that's highlighted, I would say it's going to be really important that you're living your strategy and authority, and especially that you're making decisions correctly with your body, or you could be bringing crises that aren't your business, and that other people are not there to navigate very well. If it's in your earth, there's going to be something about that crisis and that turbulence that grounds you, that actually brings you into yourself. We don't talk much about the earth and the grounding. I had a really amazing awareness about this recently, which I'm going to talk about when I talk about the 24, which is my personality earth. So, what I would say is, if you have the 36 in your earth, personality or body, look and see if you've been to those places, and there would be a lot of information there about how you ground yourself. It's not so much the grounding. There's all this new agey stuff like, oh, put a grounding cord into the earth, and it's like, that never did anything for me, quite honestly. It was just kind of ridiculous. Some people really like that, so if that works for you, cool. But it's grounding the neutrinos into yourself. So the neutrinos are coming from the sun, and they're hitting the earth. They're opposite. The sun and the earth are always opposite. And so how do you receive those neutrinos and ground them into you, in your personality, into your experience, in your design, into your body? I'd love if this inspires people to take a look at that grounding process and how that works for you. The moon, it's what drives you, what moves you. Your moons are important. It's your moon will drive you toward your differentiation, toward your becoming yourself. So if you have the 36 there, in your personality, you're going to want to, and if you have your personality 36 in a location, you will see what drives you, what drives your personality, what differentiation comes about through dealing with the turbulence that you encounter, the turbulence maybe inside yourself, and noticing what you bring, and maybe even how you help people navigate the turbulence that you bring, that crisis. And again, I would say this is something that the more correct you are with yourself, the more fun it's probably going to be. A roller coaster can be great fun if you feel good on that roller coaster, and just hell if you feel sick. In your body, that crisis could be this just physical experience when you go to that place. Take a sip of coffee. And people could just respond to your body in some kind of way that brings out a crisis in them. What comes to my mind is body work, getting body work to see where the crisis is in your body, giving body work to help people move through whatever crisis is in their body. That could be something that would be highlighted in that place. Mercury. I visualize a list in my mind of the planets in order so I can remember where I'm going and what I'm doing. Mercury, it's what you're going to talk about. you can talk about crisis, you might talk about emotions, you might talk about what you've gone through, what's been going on, how to manage crisis. You could be a crisis manager maybe in this place. People could come to you to help manage crisis, and you would talk them through things, something like that. Like a hotline person. And then in your voice, like, what is crisis? What is turbulence? What does all that sound like in your voice? And does your voice impact people? We are all acoustically attuned, especially people who are individual circuitry defined, but all of us. The sound of things is impacting us. I once read or heard that the baby in the womb is responding to every sound that is made, and regardless of where, what country and what language people are speaking, the different sounds of the language the baby is moving to it, those sounds are impacting it. And we are always moving to sound. So your very voice could impact people. It could bring something up in them that could be turbulent. And, I'm all in favor of things coming up to be cleared. So that to me is not a bad thing, but you have to be ready for it. And the more correct you are with yourself, the more I would imagine, if you went to a place that has the 36 in your Mercury, and your voice would impact the people who are ready for whatever you're bringing. In Venus, it's going to be your standard, your values, your what you value in yourself, and maybe even project onto others. So, you might have a value around just going through crisis and dealing with shit. You could be a troubleshooter, and have that value. It's Venus is one of the things that falls away the more you become yourself, when you mutate into becoming who you really are and not the homogenized creature you were brought up to be. Those standards fall away, but they do represent something that you can see, that you hold as a value, and maybe you could even see it falling away, and it doesn't become as important to hold other people to those standards and want them to go through crisis because it's your jam. And on the design side, it's going to be your complexion. And so, if you have a design Venus, sorry, my mind is periodic and sometimes it just reboots. It does this little thing, rebooting. If you have your design Venus in the 36, your complexion might shift very much in terms of what turbulence or crisis or, those kind of interactions you're going through. And you can see that, you can see, hey, I just went through some really deep, hard shit, but my face looks really good. It looks alive. It looks like there's life, there's vitality. And that would be a good sign, where someone else could go through it and just look haggard and worn out. And if it's connected by color, harmony, or resonance, that's going to be an important clue for you. If these crises are healthy for you, for your PHS, for what you're taking in. Mars, that's where mine is, my Mars. Oh, I didn't say one of my favorite things about the 36. There's some adorable keynotes that are not your everyday keynotes in the books, but this human experiential way goes from the 41 to the 30, 41 down the root, 30 in the solar plexus, up to the 36 in the solar plexus, to the 35. That's the human design. That's the human experiential way. And there's 4 little keynotes for those 4 gates. In the 41, you find them. Sorry. In the 41, you find them. In the 30, you feel them. In the 36, you fuck them. And in the 35, you forget them. That's the human design. That's the human experiential way. So the 36 in Mars is going to be mutative. In the personality, it's going to be how you find who you are. It's going to lead that charge to your mutated essence, truly being who you are. And so when you're living your strategy and authority and making decisions with your body, that Mars in your personality will lead you to just the crisis that, in a sense, will burn out what is not you and leave you with yourself. And so if you're ready for that, going to a place where that Mars in the personality is in the world could be really empowering, could be really crisis provoking in a way that leaves you with yourself very, very profoundly. And in the body, it could be a physical crisis. It could put heat, it's heat, it's heat or not, which is cold. Again, I have Mars in my body. I've always liked fevers. When I was young, I had fevers and they didn't scare me. I can remember having a fever really high as a kid to where I was like even hallucinating and feeling so good when it was over. And even a few times as an adult. And when my daughter was young and when I was working in schools, I worked in Montessori and Waldorf schools and stuff. I was never one of those people that thought fevers were something you should bring down. And maybe it's that Mars in me. It just knows that's how you burn shit out. That fire burns through what is no longer needed. And so it can be a crisis in the body of getting really hot. I was just going to tell some, but I'm not sure I have the details right, so I won't tell that right now. Of a place I was under a Mars line, but I can't now remember if it was Mars in my personality or my design. So I won't tell it because I could be wrong. I think it was design, but I'm going to wait on that. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the next time I go to my Mars in my design, and maybe I'll get some fire going in my body and burn out what's no longer needed. Maybe it'll burn through this little tightness I have going on in my shoulder. And in places where you have Mars and you're bringing crisis, it's important to be correct with your movement and where you're going and who you're staying with and who you're encountering, because again, people don't always like you bringing crisis to them. It's only when you do it correctly that it's going to really give that sense of, yeah, this is good, it'll feel good. Mars, Jupiter in the body is your aura. So you're going to have an aura of crisis and turbulence. It's just what is. People like me who have a low boredom threshold might really enjoy that. Again, especially if it's correct, because it would shake things up, right? So you might shake things up when that's in your aura and you go to that place. It's very expansive. Jupiter, it's that huge planet, and Jupiter actually gives neutrinos off. It's the only planet that does, I think. I think it's 4% of our neutrinos come from Jupiter, and I don't know what else to say about that. On the personality side, it's your rules, those inner rules that you create. And what rules have you developed for yourself around turbulence, around crisis, around bringing yourself to other people and how you deal with it when crisis comes in your wake. What rules have you developed around that, and are they working? And they will be highlighted if you go to a place that has that Mars. I mean, that Jupiter. Glad I caught that. Might not have. Hey, that was a mistake, but I caught it. Okay. Saturn, personality, constraint. This is where you can only be you. And if you are only you, with all the limitation that liberates you, then Saturn just leaves you alone. It's like, okay, good, you got this. Go forth and crisis out. If you're not living according to who you are, you could get really punished here. And there could be crises that you wouldn't want to experience, or you could bring crisis to other people that would not necessarily be to their benefit. So again, with any Saturn line, I would take a look at yourself before going there. And when you have it in the 36, Saturn in the 36, to make sure that you're really living your strategy and making decisions with your inner authority, because then you can actually bring great gifts and live in a way that's true to yourself. On the design side, it's going to be that exhalation. What are you putting out? What are you putting out? What are you putting out? With each breath you breathe out, all the neutrinos that have filtered through you are moving out into the world. And if it's in 36, they're going to be turbulent, they're going to be I'm anthropomorphizing neutrinos now. They're very neutral. But again, you want to be correct with yourself when you're working with Saturn. Saturn will give you the strongest foundation in the world to build upon if you're true to yourself, if you're living your strategy, if you're living your inner authority. And you can notice the exhale. How does that work for you? When you breathe it all out, where do you go? Where do you center inside yourself? Uranus movement on the design side. Movement in the 36, moving through turbulence, moving through crisis. Keep moving. There's that old adage, if you find yourself walking through hell, keep walking. In other words, don't stop, because then you're just there, keep going. I think that could be a nice adage for the 36 somewhere in the world. If you have the 36 in your Uranus in your design, keep moving. Let the crisis move through you, and keep moving through. And if it's connected by color resonance or harmony to your Sun Earth on the design side, notice your movement. If you get in a crisis and it just freezes you, that could be a clue that you really are not nourishing your body in a way that it's needing. You're nourishing your brain in a way that it's needing. On the personality side, it's called the sidetrack. And it's the correct sidetrack if you're following your strategy and authority. So it's the sidetrack that leads you actually to the right place. We think of the word sidetrack as, I got off. But quite honestly, the first time I heard Ra's voice, it sidetracked me to human design. And I think it's 13 years later, it's become my track. So it was a sidetrack that moved me to myself very powerfully. So you can notice the sidetrack when that 36 is in your personality, and you go to that place. What sidetracks you that leads you to yourself, right? It sidetracks you that leads you to yourself, and you may find that in that place that you go to. I hope people are gonna. I hope that once I get all of this out, and I'm gonna have special guest stars for some of these, that then we can that people will show up to help me verify if this is the experience they're having in these places with these gates and all of that. Okay, Neptune. Neptune is ineffable. Neptune is not something you chase, and it's not something you find. It's something that can show up. Neptune in the personality is misinformation. So, be careful with Neptune. You don't want to start giving out misinformation that causes crisis or jump to misinformation because you're in crisis, right? So if you're going to a Neptune place, let it be about the ineffable. Let it be about a so-called spiritual journey, or a musical journey, or a writing poetry journey, something like that, so that you're not trying to achieve and get something out of that, but that you're allowing yourself to evolve in some ineffable way that you don't even necessarily understand. If you have it in the body and you go there, Neptune is about hydration. Neptune, yeah. So be aware of what hydration does or doesn't do for you. If you have that connected to your PHS by color resonance or harmony, then hydration is going to be an important piece for your brain. So notice what happens if you get dehydrated and then you hydrate. What happens in your brain? Are you thinking better? Or if you overhydrate and you take in too much hydration, because it's different for everyone. It's not like more is better all the time. Discover that. What kind of crisis happens in your brain in this place if you are over or underhydrated, right? Pluto. I love Pluto. Truth. Give me the truth, baby. The truth of the ineffable. I think if you have Pluto in the 36 and you go there in the personality, there's going to be some deep truth that you could find through personality crisis. And if you're ready for that, that could be amazing. That just sounds amazing to me. And again, ready for that means you're following your strategy and authority, right? That's what it is. That's the game we're playing. If you don't want to be a homogenized, ordinary, humdrum robot, nothing against robots, follow your strategy and authority. And if you're ready for some deep truth, Pluto's gotcha. On the design side, it's going to be the inhalation. Excuse me. Breathe in that truth. Breathe it in. Breathe in the neutrinos. If you're in the right place and you have 36 and Pluto in that place, you could walk through crisis. There's those pictures of that meditating guy and the burning buildings are all around him, or just, moving through that crisis. And breathing in the truth that's there for you, right? I just said moving, and I don't know if I talked about Uranus on the design side, which is movement. So movement in the 36 would be very likely moving through crisis. What does that look like? How does your body move when it's in crisis? Oh yeah, I did, because I talked about the getting frozen. Okay. Chiron. You may have been damaged in your early life through bringing crisis. And how can you, especially if you go to a place where there is Chiron, and at Chiron return time, How can you own yourself? How can you recognize what you bring and turn it into a gift? Chiron is the wounded healer, so it takes the wound and becomes a teacher, becomes a healer of that very wound. So how can you help people navigate crisis if you go to that place? Physical, if you tend to be a healer of some sort, or psychological if it's in your personality. Yeah, that's a 36. You have any feedback from me? Bye.